Alrighty. And I haven't done a Zoom meeting in a long time. And I hope it's going to work well for this application. What I want to show you today is the little bit of basic Photoshop I didn't get to do in class yesterday. And yeah, welcome to my office with enough lights out that the glare on my head isn't blinding, right? But most of you probably don't have Adobe Cloud. It's kind of expensive, but on the computers down in the makerspace, it's on all the main computers down there. So you have access to it. And, Photoshop and Adobe products are not easy to use if you want to get really good at them and use all the tools. But to do some pretty basic stuff is not difficult. Okay. And I'm going to do just some really basic stuff. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is a screen share. And man, I hope I've got everything set up here. I think I do. All right, so I've got Photoshop already open. This is my sort of back screen here. And the very first thing I'm going to do is go to New File. Go to New File. Okay, well, let's try this. Let's try New. There we go. There's one thing about Adobe products. There's about 3 different ways to do everything. Okay, so what I find is I've got like the Adobe default file size down here, and it's 7 by 5 inches. That doesn't match anything. At some point in the past, I have apparently created a custom at 1920 by 1080, which is our widescreen version. I've apparently worked in that before. And I've got a couple of others here that I can afford to mess with them because, well, I can afford to mess with them. What I don't have is one that is at 4 by 3, which is the standard quality. So I'm going to click on this custom one here because I'm just going to go ahead and change it because I really don't care. Actually, I have 2 of these 980 by 200s, and I don't know why. This is in pixels. So I'm going to change the pixel width here to 854. And I'm going to change the pixel height to 480. And that will give me the pixels dimensions I need for a 4 by 3. Okay. And again, I got that number somewhere online. I hope it's pretty darn close to correct. And what I am creating right now is called an artboard, and it determines the size and shape of my work area in Photoshop. And I'm working in an RGB color mode. That's fine. We are going to do video, so RGB is good. Actually, almost any color mode is going to be fine. RGB is a little bit different than what is it? Cyan, magenta, yellow. I don't remember the exact name of the other one, but it's going to be fine. Okay. You'll get pictures that are perfectly usable. And you can do the background color. If I wanted white background, I could make it white. I kind of like black because, well, it's easy to lose. You can also make it transparent. You can actually pick a background color, a custom color. Black is just good. It's easy to see things stand out against it. It's easier to know what you're doing. Again, my color profile is in RGB. That's fine. Square pixels. That's fine. I'm working with pixel size here. I could also select things like inches, millimeters, points, picas. I want pixels because I've got the numbers to work with that. If I was working in inches, I could try 4 to 3, but that might not come out the same. Let's just do this real quick. Let's try inches. You see, it is not 4 to 3 at all. I'm going to go back to pixels because, hold it, was that inches? Yeah, that's inches, but it's not 4 by 3. So let's go to our pixel size that, again, I posted these numbers in a D2L news item. You've got them. And now I go create my artboard. And this is my And that does not look like 4:3. Again, I'm not sure where I exactly got those numbers from, but that does not look like 4:3. 4:3. I'm pretty sure it's not. 854 to 480. That's almost double. That's definitely not 4:3. Somewhere, somehow, I managed to copy down a number wrong, and or the numbers I lifted off the internet were incorrect. We're gonna, okay, I'm gonna actually go File, New. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go pick I'm in this custom size I just created. I'm gonna go to inches, and I'm gonna select 4:3, and then I'm going to go to pixels, and I'm going to see that this is 1200 to 900, and I'm willing to accept that. Okay, it's a little bit bigger than what I expected. We could actually do a little bit of math and knock that down in size, but I think that this is in fact more realistic. The number I got was like the maximum number that's allowed in Photoshop, and it probably has to do with that 850, or in YouTube, probably has to do with that top number. But for dimension sizes, I'm just going to rock with this. And that looks much more square, which is what I was expecting. Okay, so now I've got my artboard set up. I'm going to need a picture to work with. Man, that's actually huge. That's really freaking big. I'm gonna rock with it anyways. So I need a picture. I got online. I found some pictures earlier. I'm going to drag a picture of some lilies in here. And what it does is it auto sizes it to whatever dimension is closer, but you can pull it so that it matches the outside dimensions or even goes beyond them. And what happens is you end up cropping a little bit off of the sides, but mostly it's still there. Now, this big X indicates that it's not completely in there yet, and it looks a little bit blurry, but I hit the enter button. Okay, and that X goes away, and now it's in my file. I can't move it anymore. I can't crop it anymore. It's there. But what I can do, and one of the things I wanted to show you is, now I've got a couple of colors here that, let's say I'm working on a poem that is a little bit romantic in nature, and I wanted this picture, but the colors don't quite seem to fit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the color of these two front lilies for you. And this is a pretty simple sort of adjustment. This is the selection tool, and you have a couple options: object selection, quick selection. To use the object selection tool, you need something that's fairly distinct, and these lilies tend to blend into the background quite a bit. You also have the magic wand tool here, which I'm not going to use. I'm going to go for the quick selection tool, and this gives me what's referred to as a paintbrush, and I can select the paintbrush size up here. I can make it bigger. All right, I can make it smaller. 30 was 30's, I guess that's like a default number. It's not bad. Now I've gone to 32. It's about the same. And I can select whether I am selecting areas positive or deselecting areas minus. I want to start in the positive mode, right? And what I do is I drag this around on my flower, and it's a pretty smart tool. You know, it's not object selection. It won't try to pick the whole thing for me all at once. I have to do a little bit of coloring, right? But it pretty much selected that flower. But one thing it did do was it included a little bit of the petal from this back flower down here. So again, I'm going to go to the minus button, and I am going to deselect that area, and I can actually adjust my lines a little bit if I really wanted to. Quick demo. And remember, these are only on screen for a short period of time. Each image is. You don't have to be super picky all the time. Okay. So now I have an area selected. And when I started with my background over here on the right-hand side, these are called layers. And I had my background layer, which is black, and I had my lilies, which I brought in, and that created a separate layer when I brought them in. And I am going to come down here to this little half black, half white circle, and I am going to create what is called an adjustment layer. And I am going to create a solid color. Well, I could do a gradient. I mean, I can do lots of different things, right? I can change the exposure. I could just change the brightness contrast. I could take out the color and make the selected area black and white if I so desired, right? And I can click on this and I can change, uh-oh, I think I might have just created a new adjustment layer. I did. Okay, so I want to turn that off. Okay, I'm going to cancel that, and that got rid of it. Somehow, somehow when I changed it to black and white, I know that there's a way to change this. I'm not sure I remember how. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this adjustment layer off. Okay. I'm just going to leave it there. I'm going to click back on this one again. And now I have to reselect my area, right? Because same thing, super easy, super fast. Let's get rid of this bit down here because I don't really want the background flower in there. And now I'm going to create a new one, and I'm not picking black and white this time. Okay, I'm going to go solid color, and I want something. Well, I said it was a romantic poem, and the bright red may be a little bit much. Let's take something kind of pinkish, maybe a little bit pinkier, and I can adjust it around in here. And I've got to admit, I'm not really good with colors, but I'm going to go, okay, that's definitely pink, I hope, right? So I'm going to go, okay. Well, what I've done is I've created this solid blotch of that bright pink color, and I want some of the details of the flower structure to show through. So I'm going to go over here to opacity, and I am going to turn the opacity down, and that lets some of the flower structure show through. And I can turn it clear down so it's back to the original color. And I am actually adding my pink to the pre-existing color, right? I could probably, this is a scary thing to do. I'm not going to do it just yet. Okay, so now I've got back to pink, and I can do some other stuff. I can, now if I click this layer off, again, I can turn my layers on and off as I want to. But if I click this layer off, I can see the depth of the change I made. And I can turn that layer back on, and I can make it maybe just a little bit pinker and still keep some of the, well, if I go too far, I lose this. I can do other stuff. It's starting to look pretty artificial back here in the background, right? I can go to this little menu here, and I can do things like normalize it, normal it. That's pretty much how it was. I can do strange stuff like dissolve it and add dots. I can darken it. I can multiply it. I can color burn it, linear run it. And most of these darker color, this darkens everything that was in it. Apparently, it's a little bit of green leaked through. That's kind of an interesting effect, right? This is basically an effects menu. Can lighten it. That lightens everything up, including the color I put in. And again, you can just kind of scan down, and some of these produce results that are obviously not what I am after. That one's kind of interesting, but again, I kind of, lots of these, I kind of lose this pink. This one's called hard light. Again, it doesn't help much. And of course, you can't see where I'm pointing. It doesn't help much with the hard edges. That one's kind of interesting. It's still really pink. It looks really artificial. Again, I'm trying to find something that maybe doesn't. Ooh, that one's cool. And some of them actually take out the selected color. If there was any pink there, it's gone. Any pink in the original, whatever. A divide. Now this one's kind of nice. Okay. And again, if I just sort of hover off of this or I go back to normal, that's what I had. If I go to hue, that's like it makes a wider shade of pink automatically. That's kind of nice. I kind of like that. It's a little bit romantic. There's one that just says color. Let's see if we can tell the difference between hue and color. Not particularly. Color's just a little bit darker. I can see it up in some of the peripherals. Okay, I'm kind of liking that one. So I'm going to select that, right? Okay. So now I have one pink flower. And what I was looking at before in terms of how it was artificial is this area up here along the edges. And before I did that lightning effect, it looked really artificial, kind of like it does down here. It's really standing out and really looks artificial. But again, my people aren't going to see that very much. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to this layer, right? And I wonder what happens if I turn this layer back on. And you can also drag layers around. This is what happens if I drag the black and white below the pink. That's kind of cool. Okay, I'm going to turn it back off though. I'm going to go back to this layer here, and I'm going to go back to my selection tool, and I am going to select the back flower. Whoop, and I got an awful lot there. And maybe my brush is a little bit too big for this flower because it's smaller. So I'm going to turn my brush size down. Okay. And then I'm going to try and get this little point in here, close enough for government work, right? Then I'm going to go to minus. I'm going to take out this green part that I got by mistake. The smaller your brush, the better it is to pick up errors and to get into really tight little spots. I'm going to go back to plus again because I missed just a little bit here that might stand out. Back to minus. Photoshop is one of those tools where sometimes there's a lot of back and forth. And I might have had, okay, that's better. Okay, so I'm going to create a new adjustment layer. Back to here again. And I'm going to go to solid color again. Actually, let's try maybe a gradient is iffy. Gradient makes it, lighter on one side and darker on another. I definitely don't want a pattern. I'm going to stick with kind of what we've been doing. And for this flower, I'm going to pick something a little bit redder. I was way up here before. This time I'm going to pick something a little bit redder, but a little bit lighter. Now, not grayer, just lighter. Okay, I'm going to go okay. And once again, I'm going to head to the opacity button. I'm going to tone that down. And again, if I turn my new layer off, that's the difference I've created, which isn't very much. So I'm going to turn my opacity back up a little bit. Okay, and I can turn this layer off and I can see exactly what I've accomplished. I really didn't change this one very much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try my, I've got it turned off. I have to turn it back on. I'm going to try this again. And I'm going to try something maybe a little bit different. I'm going to try maybe a color dodge. Maybe not. How about a darken? Okay, I can try darken. Look at the difference. Okay, I haven't accomplished much, but it's a little bit redder. I think somehow there's a way to get that back again. That color menu. Uh-oh. Okay, so I just selected an area and I didn't intend to. It's one of the dangers of always be sitting on this tool over here. I want to get rid of that little selected area. So the undo command in Photoshop is Control Z. Whatever you did last disappears when you hit Control Z, and you can go backwards many, many steps. So I'm going to quit while I'm ahead. And I would then, if I went save, this would save this as a Photoshop project file, right? And save as allows me to put a name on it. And if I wanted to actually use this in a video, what I would need to do is go to export, and quick export as a ping is fine, right? Or you can pick export as, and you can pick a JPEG or an HTML document. I'm going to go export as, and it's going to give us some options here. And I'm going to pick, okay, it's still kind of booting up. Okay, so this is the picture that I'm actually exporting. I think it looks significantly different than the other one. And I am in a JPEG format, and I can pick PNG or GIF. I'm going to stick with JPEG. PNG is fine for video use too. The quality is 6. It's already pretty high. I think you can turn it up only as high as 7. I'm at 1200 by 900 pixels. I could actually change my image size here if I wanted to. I'm not sure I want to. I'm just going to leave it, and by Cubic Automatic, everything's good. Metadata. Metadata is where you include information about the origins of the picture and what manipulations you might have done, stuff like that. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go export, and it's going to give me a place to put it in, and I'm going to stick it in my image manipulation folder and go save. Okay, so now if we go back to my folder, we can actually see, here is my Untitled 2. I guess I didn't put a title on it, but we can see the difference between those two pictures pretty readily, just side by side as thumbnails. This one's obviously got much more of the romantic pinkish stuff going on. Now, once again, what happened here was I was actually working over top of this picture with these colors. If you wanted a little bit truer pink and you wanted a little bit more immediate control, what you might consider doing is, and I'm going to go open new, and where's my custom frame for 920 by 820. I'm going to pick that. Black background. Again, it doesn't really matter because I'm covering the entire background. I can even turn the background off at any point if I feel like it. I'm going to go create. This is my widescreen box. I'm going to come back here, and someplace in my image folder, I've just got more lilies. Okay. But this picture I selected because it was already shaped a little bit more like my pixel size that I needed for the widescreen. Again, I drag it out to the edges of my artboard. That automatically sizes it to my 16:9 requirement for widescreen. I didn't know this picture had a little bug in it before. That's kind of funny. I'm not going to worry about it right at this moment. Maybe if I was actually going to use this, I could actually remove that if I wanted to, but that's not what I intended for this video. I'm going to hit the enter button. There we go. And once again, I would go to my selection tool. I'm going to try real quick object selection. It's not picking anything up. So I'm going to hit Control Z, get rid of that. Yeah, when there's just too busy a background or there's too much going on, like in the center of this, it's not picking up what I want it to. So I'm going to go back to the quick selection tool and boof, 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 boof. It's pretty darn smart too. It's not like it's taking a lot of effort for me to get this lily. It has left out, notice, some of these center pieces, and maybe that's kind of nice. And if I made my brush really tiny, like really tiny, and I went to, was I already on minus? I guess minus. And I tried this. maybe I could pick out some of this stuff in the center. Okay, it's getting pretty iffy here. It's pretty tiny. This is so tiny stuff that maybe I would have to do other things to it. Okay, and then I'm going to go back to plus. I'm actually going to do this. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to select my color tool. I'm going to make this one again a pink, lighter shade of pink. Notice what I've got going on here in the background. When I tried to deselect part of that, I kept part of the white, part of the green. I would want to Control Z a couple times, get rid of all this, start over, and probably just cover up all that junk in the center. That way I could use opacity to cut it back. What's going to happen in this color layer is I'm going to cut back my opacity so that I'm seeing more of the leaf detail. And this stuff here in the center is still, well, it's the way it was. And once again, I'm going to go from normal. I'm going to try to darken it a little bit. It's going to look terrible as long as I've got that stuff going on in the center. That's kind of an interesting effect. That's an interesting effect. Whoops, I don't know what I just did. Kind, not kind. Need to pick this again. I've got difference going on. Oh, some really cool things happen. That's kind of nice. It's pink, it's light. What happens when I go to normal again? I don't like the normal. I don't like the really hard color thing. What's the dissolve look like in this? It's kind of an interesting effect. I'm not sure it's quite what I'm after. Kind of like the color burn option in this, but my pink stays much truer because I'm working on a neutral background within the picture. And that's really what I wanted to show you. Okay, we've been doing this for quite a while. I said I'd keep this video short, and changing the color of a part of a picture is exactly what I hope to accomplish. Another thing that I might do, I can turn this layer off really fast. I'm going to go back to my original layer, and I'm going to use my selection tool, and I'm going to make my brush big again. I mean, like really big. I'm going to use my selection tool, and I'm going to pick this whole crazy picture. And then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to pick a black and white color filter. Now, why I didn't pick up the stuff in the center, I'm not sure, but I could select that again. I'm already in black and white, so it's not going to matter if I create another filter. There we go. If I had a color picture and I wanted a black and white one, it's that easy to change it. You just select the whole thing, create that adjustment layer filter, and make it black and white. All righty. I am going to stop the screen share here. And I have no idea how long this has been going, but it's going to feel like far too long, I'm sure. So I will see you in the makerspace in the very near future. You have a good day.